Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, welcoming you here to talk about professional wrestling for a couple of hours now. It's pretty much our routine that we do here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel right here, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I record this live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. This edition was recorded on May the 2nd. So you're going to have all the stuff right up to date, right up to May 2nd. There you go. But I hope you do have the chance to ever pop in live. And if you can't, well, I appreciate you watching right now on demand. Consider giving a like to the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Little things that help out a great deal. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you very much. Hey, thank you to all the new, the numerous new listeners to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. If you are joining me for the first time, for the first few times, thank you very much. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out, say hello, and leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, a five-star review on Apple Podcast, and a 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things help out a great deal, help grow the channel as well, and I appreciate any type of little bits of love that you can show like that. Those things are fantastic. You can also look at, if you're like me and you like to talk about pro wrestling, you can join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. We talk about pro wrestling. We talk about sports. We talk about food. We talk about music. All sorts of stuff. Come and join us. I'm sure you'll find great discussions, great people, and a good time to chat about all sorts of wonderful things. Social media is a bit of a mess. Come on over to my place. It'll be great. Also, don't forget to read my articles over on voicesofwrestling.com. Got a lot of stuff here. My most recent is a SWOT analysis on CM Punk. Go check that out. I would appreciate it a great deal. And don't forget that I also do my AEW Dynamite reviews every Thursday. So if you subscribe to the channel or you subscribe to the podcast, you won't miss those. They'll pop up on your feed at some point on Thursday where I review the previous night's AEW Dynamite. But today, whenever it is you're listening to this, we got a packed show. We're going to talk about the first day of presale for AEW's All-In show over in London, England, at, of course, Wembley Stadium. We're going to talk about the lawsuit that is being brought forward to WWE by one of their former writers. We're also going to be reviewing some New Japan matches, previewing WrestleMania Backlash, and more. Thank you for being here. Let's jump right in then. Start it off, the weekly wrestling inspection. Let's start with probably, as I'm recording this on a Tuesday, May 5th. I think the biggest news that we can talk about at this moment in time, the lead, is to talk about AEW's very successful pre-sale for its August All-In event at London's Wembley Stadium. In fact, AEW sold 36,000 tickets during the All-In pre-sale, which has already set an all-time AEW attendance and live gate records. And the show hasn't even... we're not even close to it yet. It's just happening. So again, another big time show getting sold out. Let's read some deets via the Wrestling Observer, the Figure 4 online. AEW sold more than 36,000 tickets for $4.7 million in revenue during the Tuesday pre-sale for this August All-In event at London's Wembley Stadium. The number guarantees AEW will have their largest ever attendance and largest ever gate before a single match is even announced. Earlier today, our Dave Meltzer first reported that more than 35,000 tickets had been sold. Later in the day, AEW head Tony Khan gave an update, which included the current gate number of 36,000 sold for £3.8 million. $4.7 million. That's fantastic stuff. The show is set for Sunday, August 27. The broadcast availability and start time has yet to be revealed, but it appears unlikely to be a pay-per-view, with All Out happening the following weekend. That has been That's been going around. That's something that's going to happen. There have been rumors going around that the All In show will be available on HBO Max, which kind of makes sense when you consider that HBO Max wanted the event to Tony Khan, I should say, was promoting the event as also celebrating the 100th anniversary of Warner Bros. Right? You remember that when they were talking about that? So it kind of makes sense that it's like, well, look, we're gonna do this big anniversary gala show. And then we're going to put it on HBO Max because it's for the 100 years of celebrations. And of course that's fantastic, and I think it's a big boon for anyone who wants to be on the HBO Max, who is subscribed to, or it's just going to be Max at that point, right? Didn't they go through with that? It's just going to be called Max. Of course, then the question is, what do you do internationally, because HBO Max is not available across the world in its current form. Here in Canada, because of broadcasting laws and whatnot, we have a bastardized cousin of HBO Max called Crave. Maybe Crave will carry the show live, or will they enter some kind of understanding, some kind of deal with Fight, which is also possible. And then it would be a pay-per-view internationally. Look, I don't know. Why are you asking me? You're not asking. But that's still very cool. Of course, right now, the full seating capacity for the event is unknown, right? We know Wembley Stadium can sit 90,000 people. I think they can raise that close to 100K, depending on like a football, soccer game setup is 90K. So obviously the total number of available seats is going to be lower because we have to accommodate for the stage and whatnot. How many seats does that mean that they're going to be taking away? Who knows at this point? Couldn't tell you. Then at the same time, they're going to be adding seats because there's going to be floor seating, right? So how far is this going to go? We'll find out. We'll find out soon enough, because there's like 3 more pre-sales this week, right? Something to that effect. There's like, before the general population get a crack at it, there's like 3 more. And they sold 35,000 on the first day. I would love to have known how much were put up for sale. Was it 35,000? 36,000, excuse me. Was that the amount? So what's left? What's going to be left for the general population? What's left for these upcoming pre-sales? This is like wild stuff, if you ask me. The Wembley thing is such a big deal right now. And listen, if you cannot objectively sit back, look at these numbers, look at this business, and not see this as a positive for Major League Pro Wrestling, I don't know what to tell you. You are completely worm-brained. There is nothing you can see. You are incapable of seeing the bigger picture in this. Outside of but WWE, but AEW, this has nothing to do with either. Look, we saw WWE hit 49,000 paid for Clash at the Castle, which is fantastic. Again, like, this was their first big pay-per-view on overseas, like, what, since Insurrection, I think? I don't, look, honestly, this kind of stuff eludes me, so, but it had been a while, right, for a big pay-per-view, and they fill out a stadium over in Cardiff, right? Fantastic stuff. And you cannot but look at that and say, look, things are healthy for WWE. But when AEW goes into territories like Canada, like the UK, and they instantly sell out shows, again, as was mentioned in the article, that have not a single match announced for, the takeaway you have to take away from this, if you're, not completely worm-brained, is the business is doing well. This is good for pro wrestling. If you're a pro wrestling fan, you cannot but not look at the success WWE's having. You cannot look at the sellouts that AEW is registering here and not say that this is good news, that there is not still potential for growth. It's all fantastic news. AEW registering huge gate in both number and in number and in revenue. It's fantastic. And this is the only real takeaway you can have, unless you're of complete bad faith and you just want to sit around and say, well, will they be able to? Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point they will be. If it's not a complete sellout, it's going to be, I think, far and above some of the most conservative thoughts. I really do. It's going to be more than some of the most conservative predictions moving forward here. Because if this is such good news, and I'm talking conservative predictions, I'm not even mentioning the bad faith responses that have been out there as well. Because once again, the crew who was trying to convince us that Forbidden Door last year would not do good business. Well, they were back at it with the Wembley show, of course. They were back at it going completely bananas and saying, this is never going to sell out. They're never going to sell more than 20,000 tickets, 30,000 tickets. They sold 36,000 on a presale. It's not even the last. Was it? And there's more presales to come. Then an ESPN reporter pops in, right? You want to talk about bad faith. Hearing Wembley is scaled for only 40,000 for AEW. Far cry from last April when I was ringside for Tyson Fury, Dylan White, and it was packed to the brim with 94,000. Nothing beats the big fight feel at Wembley. Of course, Tony Khan called him out in a legendary tweet, but that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the, Mike Coppinger coming out like this. And I'm like, how did he hear this information? Where did he get this 40,000K for AEW? Hearing Wembley is scaled for only 40,000. Why would you rent out Wembley Stadium and set it up for only half capacity? It's a good question. I might have an answer because WWE has done it. You get, they did it when we were coming out of the pandemic, right? Hold shows in stadiums who were anxious to get live shows back in here, so probably were a little more affordable. They could probably rent out the space at a more reasonable price and rent those out, try to fill as many people in there as possible to, get the coffers flowing again. Even if it's not a sellout, if you're able to pack, 40,000 people into an 80,000 seat arena, as opposed to selling out an 18,000 seat arena, well, that's a strategy that you could employ. But you can only do this for, I don't think, we're talking, perception wise here, I don't think that's the kind of thing you can do with Wembley Stadium. Because Wembley Stadium has a reputation. Wembley Stadium is one of the most famous stadiums in the world. It's absolutely, and in a top 3 conversation when people will, name me some famous venues. They're going to talk about Madison Square Garden, and the Tokyo Dome maybe. I'd argue you'd throw Wembley Stadium in the conversation before the Dome. But you know what? Where do you think he heard this? Is what I'm saying. Mike Coppinger. Where do you believe he heard this from? Where do you think it is that this happened? Hey, Mike Coppinger, his former agent, was a gentleman known as Nicholas Khan, who is currently the CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment until it gets absorbed by, he's still going to be there. You see where I'm getting at? If there is one thing that the WWE PR Corps has been exceptional at recently, is throwing people off of the scent of things or changing the conversation about things so that it would fit a different narrative, so to speak. Something that they want to have talked about, right? Hey, Vince McMahon is back. Oh, by the way, here's a picture of him in a mustache. What do people do? Fixate on the mustache and how goofy Vince looks. Oh, he's a villain. He looks like Mr. House in Fallout New Vegas. It's like, all right. But the point is that Vince is still back in power. But then the airbrains, that's all they see. Vince, silly mustache, wacky mustache. It was wacky, don't get me wrong. But we lost the plot on that one. And this has happened numerous times where things have happened in WWE and quickly, not unlike the suspiciously rapid response from wrestling media to Vince McMahon showing up at Raw that one night. And then suddenly we hear that, oh, he's just there to visit his good friend John Cena. There's a reason why these things get thrown out so quickly. Why they get tossed into the universe so fast. It's because WWE PR is doing a PR job. They're sending their narratives out there and people are running with them. So I would not at all be surprised if Nick Khan called up his buddy Mike Coppinger and said, well, hey, did you know? Hey, did you hear that AEW stuff? Yeah, turns out it's only set up for 40,000 people. Really? Oh, okay, Nick, I'll throw that out there. Mike Coppinger, who doesn't necessarily really ever cover anything AEW related, mostly about WWE. Isn't that interesting? Why would he get this news? I'm just saying. The bad faith actors will always be there. They will always, always, always be there. What did I say? I said 60,000 would be a success. I think 60,000 would have been considered a success. Is that what I said? I think they're absolutely going to hit it now. They're absolutely going to get a huge gate here. They're going to blow away whatever attendance WWE has done. This is going to be, I believe, this is going to be the biggest non-WWE show from a North American company in the past 20 years. Something to that effect. Already at this point, the show doesn't even have its headliner announced yet and has surpassed in attendance and in revenue, of course, the Georgia Dome Nitro of Goldberg versus Hogan. We're going, and that was the biggest gate in Nitro history. So technically speaking, Tony Khan has blown everything out of the water for in regards to WCW. But, please, I hope everyone continues to listen to, sharp business mind Eric Bischoff for all their, acute, high-level business news and, operational acumen, right? That's because that's what he has to offer, right? That's his shtick, beat WWE in ratings for just about over a year, and somehow he's this infallible business mind. Of course, every operation that he's been involved in afterwards was such a rousing success. I've never steered you wrong, I don't think, purposefully anyway. Not when it comes to this kind of business talk anyway. Look at him backtrack. I know. Look, maybe I steered you wrong on Tiffany Stratton. I'll give you that much. Pete Davies, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Nice to see you, Pete. Welcome. Look, you all know who they are at this point, right? All the people who said that Forbidden Door last week would never draw. I still saw people in the days leading up to this that were saying they'll pre-sale 10 to 20,000 tickets, no more. It's going to be a failure. And there are so many people who have no clue yet are pretending out there to have the pulse of what's happening in wrestling. But they don't. Just stick with me, folks. I got you back. But this is good. This is all very, very good news. And I'm sure they're going to be celebrating that tomorrow on Dynamite, as they should. And quite frankly, here's the thing. We're not going to get any matches announced for this until Forbidden Door is done. I hope y'all realize this, right? There's nothing being announced for this show until Forbidden Door. Another sellout, by the way, in a foreign land. The Great White North of Canada, in that that chilly iceberg of a city called Toronto, Ontario. We're not going to get any announcements. These tickets are going to sell out, and whatever's left in the meantime is going to be sold out as we go along. And here's something that I find super interesting at the same time. Where did it go? I had it right here, and it's gone. But we'll pull it back up again. Here's something really interesting that I saw as well here, is that Defy, there's actually going to be a wrestling show on June 25th in Toronto. We've got Defy in Progress doing a crossover show on June 25th at the Toronto Rec Room. And in the morning, there's going to be Smash Wrestling, who are apparently still around, and Femme Fatales, who are going to have a crossover event or a shared event. So people jumping on the Forbidden Door bandwagon, June 25th. I think that's great. And that's on the day of Forbidden Door in the afternoon. And then they even say free showing of the AEW Forbidden Door following the shows. So they probably were able to get a license to do it, hopefully. So that's fun. I would expect, or at least look, this is what if the UK indies are still breathing, if they still have, a pulse going, I would absolutely think that they should do the same and try to latch on to all of the wrestling fans who are going to be in town. Because again, it's a holiday weekend in the UK. So why not try to get some people in there, book some shows? I'm sure there's people trying to put stuff together as we speak, but this would actually be a good moment, while there's so much attention that will be turned to the UK now with this show, to sort of show us that, the scene still has a pulse at the very least. I think that could be an interesting thing to do. Will they do it? Well, I don't know who would do it. But anyway, fantastic news, big news. 36,000 tickets on the first day of the pre-sale. The next few days are going to be outstanding. I'm excited. I know some people who cover the business for some reason or another do not want to cover the lawsuit being levied against WWE right now by one of its former writers, but I'll cover it. I'll talk about it. I'm fine with it. We're going to get some notes here from our boy Brandon Thurston, the weekly WrestleNomics plug. Subscribe. Some of the best money you will ever spend for wrestling coverage, because Brandon does it in a way that no one else does. No one. So the lawsuit comes from a former writer, Brittany Abrams. She's suing WWE, alleging, quote, discriminatory treatment, harassment, hostile work environment, wrongful termination, and unlawful retaliation due to her race, color, and gender. Oh boy, that's loaded. In fact, she's suing WWE, and she's named the following as defendants as well. A couple of names you might recognize here: Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Christine Lubrana, who is the Senior Vice President of Creative Writing Relations, senior writers Jen Pepperman and Chris Dunn, and lead writers, Ryan Callahan and Mike Heller. Dunn and Heller, for the sake of transparency, are no longer under the employment of WWE. So here are the major bullet points. We're going to talk about it, and we'll get to a point where I will jump in here. Abrahams began working for WWE as a temporary writer, working on SmackDown in November 2020. She became a permanent employee in May 2021 until her dismissal in April 2022. In the complaint filed Monday in federal court with the Eastern District of New York, Abrahams, I've been calling her Abrams, right? But it's Abrahams. Excuse me. Abrahams details multiple instances in which WWE allegedly had talent act out racist stereotypes and pitched other racist concepts that didn't make it to the screen. Now, I'm sure, this news broke, I want to say last Wednesday or something. It's something to that effect. It's almost been a week, right? But, I do the show on Tuesday, so I hadn't had a chance to properly talk about it. And I think, this is still significant news nonetheless, even though it's been it's in the news cycle, it's been a while, but I think this is still very significant. So I'm sure you've all heard of a lot of the things that have come out from the lawsuit, right? Such as the thing about the lines Chris Dunn wrote for Bianca Belair, which Belair did not want to do, but kept saying over and over she didn't want to do them, but they kept putting them back in over and over again, despite the fact that Belair wouldn't want to do, right? There was this scene that was something about earrings. Don't have me take off my earrings. Bianca said it'll make me sound ghetto. And in the lawsuit, it was written prior to the writing of this scene. Many of the WWE writers commonly complained that they didn't know what to do with Bianca Belair. We're going to get to that. But I want to walk through the rest first. And then, from that point on, with the whole thing with the earrings and whatnot, they started giving Abraham's attitude. It's your scene now. You do it. You're the head writer now, and so on and so forth. Then, as another pitch, they wanted Reggie to be dressed in drag to fight Carmella. And then they had another one where they would have Shane Thorne dressed up as a slapjack, dressed up as a crocodile hunter, a crocodile hunter, right? Because he's Australian, because, you know, and he's a hunter and since he's Australian, he has to be like, oh, crikey, you know, because, you know, the crocodile hunter hasn't been a thing since Steve Irwin died 17 years ago. You know, it's not even a culturally relevant thing anymore, but this is what WWE does, right? It's like, hey, remember this one thing? Isn't that a gas? Isn't that a hoot? And then, but that's not even the worst part, is that they'd have him hunt Reggie, dressed in drag or not, I couldn't tell you. But they'd have him run around and put him in a cage. Yeah, because those optics are great. And then there was the Mustafa Ali thing where he had a secret. He was trying to get trying to win over Aaliyah. Was it Mustafa Ali or was it Mansoor? Hang on a second. I wrote... No, it was Mansoor, right? Yeah, it was Mansoor that had a secret. That secret would be that he was he was behind the 9/11 attacks, right? I frankly do not understand that one. I don't even know how is that even an idea? I don't even understand how that correlates. I don't even know how that makes any sense. Because he's Saudi Arabian, don't get me wrong. But here's the thing, is that legitimately Saudi Arabia is suspected of having a hand in the 9/11 attacks. And WWE is one of its biggest business partners is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Why would they do this? Like, even from those optics, it makes no sense. Even if you wanted to go down the absolute corporate route here, and you're like, well, does it make sense business-wise? No, it doesn't. Why would you do this? Why would you continue to perpetuate this idea that, hey, you know what? Maybe Saudi Arabia did have a hand in the attacks on September 11th. And then there were stuff, this was all in an angle with Aaliyah, who was, they were also coming up with sexist shit about it. Anyway, Abraham's brought up multiple instances of her being talked down to and disrespected from some of the higher ups, and nobody in WWE was doing anything about it. So anyway, Abrahams says that she was fired on April 7, 2022 for taking a WrestleMania commemorative chair, which she was told she could do. She was given the authorization to take one, so she did. But they fired her anyway, and which was clearly just an excuse to have her out the door. Oh, she took a chair, fire her. So that's essentially it. She's being represented by the Cochran firm. She's not going in this lightly. Warren, do you think that there's going to be any resolution to this? This is going to be settled out of court because this is how WWE works. If Abrahams had a shit time over at this company and was disrespected and was not treated fairly, equally, she should get a payout. I'm absolutely okay with it. This shit behavior has to stop. But I mean, none of what was exposed in this really surprises me. I'm not surprised that the culture in WWE is still very much prevalently this. It should be a surprise to no one, in fact. So, I don't think that this is going to. I don't think this is going to create any changes in policies or how things are dealt with. I thought it was interesting how some of the things were highlighted and how the pitch process goes through. Like there's a Slack that exists for pitches in which Vince and Bruce Pritchard are involved in, and I cannot wrap my head around Vince McMahon knowing how to use Slack. I think it's a rib. I think it's the same person who handles Vince's Twitter account, who handles the Slack account, and just does nothing. That doesn't make sense to me. When people said maybe Ryan Callahan's going to get fired. Ryan Callahan, anyone who is still on the team will be, and who's involved in this, will have their jobs at risk only if, only depending on the size of the settlement. If they cost WWE a lot of money, they're hitting the bricks. I don't see any, and what do you want to have changed? It's not stuff that that we'll be able to see, nor will it have any real deal impact on creative. It's all nonsense. And the pitches, look, J.S. Brown, nice to see you. Welcome, by the way. You know, the pitches in and about themselves are pitches, and you throw things at the wall. And things come up and you're like, well, yeah, trust me when I say that there are more pitches that die than survive in a writer's room. This is just a fact. So to have really bad pitches coming up, like the Crocodile Hunter bullshit, I'm like, sure. Now, if someone brings up the fact that it's, the optics aren't great, which they're not, that's what a writer's room is for. But then you get shit for it. If you get harangued for bringing up the concept that, you know what, in this brainstorm session that we're having, in this room right now where we are all locked in to try and come up with great ideas, this bad idea comes out and someone says, well, maybe we should be careful because the optics of a white man locking a black man in a cage doesn't look great. If you start getting a hard time because you said that, then that's a whole other conversation. That's something else. Everyone should be grown up enough to be in a pitch room and be like, look, not everything's going to stick. The 9/11 thing, sure, it sounds weird. But it's not necessarily the problem isn't the pitches themselves. It's the reactions to those who were against the pitches that is sort of weird. Why would you want to hang on? Why would you be so attached to a woefully dumb idea, which happened again in writer's room? But why would you clutch to this and try to seek out, some sort of retribution because you shot it down? Because you want this one line read by Bianca Belair, and Bianca Belair keeps telling you, I am not reading this, but you keep putting it in the script. And then you get mad when it is decided that they're not doing it, that Bianca's not doing it, that, at some point you also have to let your pitches go. It is the insistence that comes with it afterwards that is problematic. Because I've sitting in writers' rooms in another lifetime. Brother, sister, non-binary pal, let me tell you, there is some awful shit that is said there. But everyone is aware, and sometimes saying the awful shit is part of the process, where you empty out the garbage, you get the junk out, so that the better shit can move in. Typically, that's what it's for. And when it goes too far, you have someone who raises a hand and is like, you know what? I think we should swerve back to this. All right. We're all adults here. We'll get juvenile. We'll turn into edgelords for 5 minutes just to get it out of our system. That stuff happens. So it's not the pitches in and about themselves that is the issue. It's the reaction to the negative response to the pitches. People getting offended that their pitch is offended. But it's my pitch. But on top of it all, at the tippy top thing of this entire thing, can you imagine being a professional wrestling company and having Bianca Belair on your roster and not knowing what to do with her? Bianca Belair, star athlete, great pro wrestler, charismatic to a fault, an inspirational persona, a media-friendly personality, conducts herself up and down and all around like a superstar in the true sense of the term, not the WWE sense. A gifted athlete who has risen above expectations, who everyone knew she had it back when she was in NXT, was given the spotlight, and the spotlight refuses to let go of her. And you are sitting around a writer's room and going, we don't know what to do with this woman. That is something that they should be taken to court over. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing the rest. This is an absolutely justified lawsuit. I'm fine with it. I'm just exaggerating for the sake of the bit here. But Bianca, being this specimen, this rare gem of a pro wrestler that has everything that WWE loves about their superstars, and you're sitting there and you're going, "What? We got nothing for her. Maybe she should. Don't have me take off my earrings. Whatever. Maybe." That's all we got. If we don't have her do that, what are we going to have her do? Maybe let her fucking wrestle. And this goes to the point that I and many others constantly make, that WWE has completely lost the plot when it comes to putting people over on television. This is why we have people who have been lost in creative, who've been like, look, creative's got nothing for you, brother. And they're just like set aside and there's nothing else to do about it. This type of shit wouldn't happen. We would not be hearing that WWE does not know what to do with Bianca Belair if WWE treated its show like a professional wrestling show. No, it's sports entertainment. I get it. We make movies, pal. That's the thing, right? And and Vince, and we're talking about Bianca, but Vince right now has at his employ so many people who are great pro wrestlers. And I know you all have some that just popped into your brain as I'm saying this. And you know exactly, you have your references, I have mine, we know who we're talking about. So many great pro wrestlers who get mired in stories, because these stories are so important, and storylines, just buttering it on. Say, well, my character has to go down this direction. Think of the story, as opposed to being a pro wrestling company and letting the wrestlers allow themselves to get over. How do they do that? Cutting promos, ring work. That's how it works. And when the wrestlers do that, they pull the plug on it. They don't go forward with it. They're too chicken shit because they have to stick to their plan, stick to their script. Right? Look, I'm seeing some of the great champions of the Bloodline story, some of the great proponents of them online, the other podcasts and pundits and whatnot. There's an echo starting to raise from the bottom saying, hey, you know what? Maybe this Bloodline story is starting to get long in the tooth. Maybe it's getting a little boring now. It's getting a little stale. Hey, they had 2, arguably 3 layups, moments where they could have decided to shake things up and make things really interesting, shake up the formula so that things would not get stale and stay hot, but they decided to go down another path that ultimately nobody really cares about. What did people care about? They cared about Sami Zayn beating Roman. What did people care about? People cared about Cody Rhodes beating Roman. Do people really, really, really care about this 1,000-day reign? This, this arbitrary number that they threw out? 1,000 days is like this target we have to hit? Do people really care about that? I would argue no. Because if they did, they wouldn't be sitting around going, the bloodline is stale. But WWE is so fixated on giving us stories as opposed to giving us pro wrestling that this is where they paint themselves into a corner. They don't create shows for the live audience. They create shows for themselves. They're back to making shows for Vince. An audience of one. What is the demographic for Raw? Males 75 years, white males 75 years and older. That's the demographic. If they cared about, because here's the thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. We wouldn't have anything for Kevin Owens. Could you imagine? Just think about it. Kevin Owens not being in the bloodline story because we don't have anything for Kevin Owens over the past since the beginning of the year. Kevin Owens has been stellar in the ring on promos. Can you imagine just being told, "Well, we don't know where to put you. We got nothing for you." Okay. Because these stories are so important, as opposed to letting wrestlers go on TV and do wrestling things and entertain us with these wrestling things. The bloodline is stale now. Of course it's stale. Because we're exactly where we have been for years. Here's my hot take. The bloodline story is not becoming stale. It was already stale. It began being interesting again when Sami Zayn got injected into it and people took a liking to it because it's Sami Zayn. Because he's special. And they developed, they being WWE, developed the possibility, created the seed in the mind of fans that Sami could have a chance in his hometown of beating Roman. Because right up until Sami got involved with the bloodline, that story was stale as hell. And once it's all over, if it ever is all over, because Triple H just told us the story never ends, right? Once we sit down and I vow to recap it, I will be able to retrace everything and we will see together with 2020 vision that the bloodline story is not this tremendous high level, succession style, a Game of Thrones level type of storytelling for pro wrestling. It has been the exact same story being told over and over again until Sami Zayn pops in. And why did people like it? Why did he get it over? Because it was fresh. He was fresh in this goddamn story that was stale as fuck. And where are we at right now? We're exactly at the same point before Sami got into this in the first place, not got back in, just got in the first place, where Roman is pissed off at the Usos and Jimmy is showing dissent. We're at the exact same place. It has never changed. We just got a coat of, we just got a fresh scent with Sami Zayn. But then Sami Zayn became Jimmy Uso, where he was trying to prove himself. It's always been a question of proving yourself to Roman. That's all the story has ever been about, no matter who came in. It's never been much more complex or interesting or stimulating than that. That's all it's been. So people who are saying, is it me or is it getting stale? It's been stale for a while. You all have to thank Sami Zayn for making something interesting. For as Kevin Owens once said, as you know, when asking advice for Stone Cold, once they give you the microphone, never stop talking. That's what Sami did. And that is the cold hard truth about the Bloodline story. Because yes, it is going to be stale as hell. Cody, he's going to be challenging. Cody was like, he commented on the new belt and he said, hey guys, you shouldn't be so hard on the belt. It's not. Why? Because it's going to be his fucking belt. So he's going to start talking it up. He's going to start saying, hey, you know what? This kind of reminds me, of the one Harley race, or, whatever. He's going to start pretending he's one of these old school wrestlers again. One of the boys. And talk up the belt. Make sure everyone likes it. Don't be so hard on the belt, guys. Because, that's the one I'm going to win, turns out. Her. That'll be so proud. Anyway. The reliance on stories, because the thing is that don't ever forget, WWE is not a good storyteller. They're not good storytellers. They haven't been in years, decades. They do not tell good stories. Objectively speaking. It's like when these people are going around saying, Jey Uso deserves an Emmy. And it's like, Jesus Christ, I beg you, watch some television. Pull up a Netflix. Watch just about anything else. Watch some real acting. It's nonsense. And they're so reliant on these stories and they're not good at it. They've never been good at it. And Vince hates it because Vince wants to be good at it. Vince, need I remind you, for years, wanted to be anything but a pro wrestling promoter. Why do you think he renamed it Sports Entertainment? Okay, maybe to escape certain the scrutiny of certain sports commissions, right? Sure. But it was also for him. I don't do wrestling. I do sports entertainment. And then WWE Studios, they do the movies. They try to dip their toes in TV. They were doing it just recently with Netflix, just a couple of years ago with Big Show, Big Show, the Big Show. The Big Show, or whatever. And then the Rey Mysterio movie. And the New Day, Undertaker bullshit. Vince has only ever been good at one thing. And it's the thing he hates. He hates wrestling. He hates it. But it's the only thing he's ever been good at. And he can't accept it. He can't live with it. We do stories. We don't do wrestling. Because if it's just wrestling, he'll have lost. So I was debating as to whether or not to talk about this on the podcast because I wasn't sure if it was a spoiler, and I typically don't talk spoilers really on the show. So but it's not really a spoiler, I've been told, because apparently Impact Wrestling, as you know, like I'm not hanging around the Twitter app anymore. So the day-to-day things in regards to pro wrestling is maybe eludes me a little bit. Whereas the substantial news and the commentary I stay very much abreast with. But apparently Impact has been talking about it quite a bit. There was a spoiler that happened last Friday on Impact. So listen, if you absolutely have not heard any announcements from Impact Wrestling, from their Twitter account, from their Facebook account, from their Instagram account, from their official webpage, from anywhere, right? you might want to skip this part here for a few minutes. There'll be timestamps on the YouTube video if you want to just skip forward. But from what I'm told, it's not a spoiler because Impact has been openly talking about it. And this is why I'm going to talk about it. But it turns out that Trinity, the former Naomi from WWE, showed up at the Spring Slugfest tapings in Chicago last Friday. She debuted with a promo saying that she is coming for the Knockouts title. Deonna Purrazzo, who is currently the Knockouts champion, came out to confront her. Jordan Grace followed up, reminding Purrazzo that, hey, by the way, sister, I'm up next. You ain't scurrying away from me that easily. So, there you go. Naomi's there. Apparently, Mercedes Moné was said to be in the crowd as well to support her friend. Not unlike how Naomi supported Mercedes in all of her things. So there you go. So that's Naomi's landing spot. This is where she ended up on Impact Pro Wrestling. I think it's a fine spot for her. If we are completely and I mean absolutely fair with each other, transparent, I think it is fair to say that this was not her first choice. I would go as far as to say that Impact is probably no one's real first choice. After leaving the Fed, for instance, you probably send some feelers around to the other big boy in town, which is AEW. If you're inclined to that sort of stuff, you'll probably reach out to Gedo or something. See if there's if you can handle the style too, because there's that. There's a bunch of stuff here where you're sort of like, well, yeah. And I'll tell you why this wasn't her first choice. Because it took her so goddamn long to debut on another show. Like I cannot believe, I have trouble believing, let's put it that way, that Naomi Trinity left WWE and saying, finally, I can go to Impact. I can show up in the Impact Zone. Not unlike Nick Aldis. Like, this is I talked about it last week or the week before when I did my Rebellion review. Nick Aldis showing up in Impact, that was not his first choice. I would dare say that was his third choice. He was fielding offers. He was trying to get squeezed in somewhere. And this is not a knock on Naomi. I'm not saying that. Not saying that, this is what she deserves. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she ended up in the right spot, but I'm convinced that this was not what she wanted. Why wouldn't she want to go back to, a national, big-time, major league show like AEW? The closest thing that there is out there to a WWE-style production on cable TV. Except for the past few weeks. Holy shit, it's very close to what WWE does. Check out my Dynamite reviews. They're on the channel right here every Thursday. And last week I particularly get angry and take the time to bury the Pillars bullshit, because I think it is bullshit. Go check it out. But look, regardless as to whether or not this was where she wanted to end up or not, I think it is a good fit for her. I think she will fit in well with this, in the Impact environment, on the roster. I will be very curious. Now, this is the thing. I am very curious to see what Naomi will do with the WWE style shackles off of her. Call them what they are. That's what they are. They hold everyone back. She has always been in this system. She is always... Here, let's make sure. Let's make sure we're not saying complete junk. Yeah, no, she's always been in this system. She started wrestling in FCW. She has always been in the WWE system. This is someone who has never worked the independents. She's never worked anywhere else than World Wrestling Entertainment. The WWE style is all she knows. So, I'm really curious to see how she is going to adapt with well-traveled, experienced, multi-layered talent like Deanna, like Jordan, like Masha Slamovich. Women who have been around the block more than once. And who wrestle different styles and who wrestle a competitive style of wrestling, which isn't always the case when you watch the weekly, week-to-week WWE action. You know, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get a Funkadactyls reunion on NWA. I'm kidding. I'm not. Poor Naomi. Trinity. That would have been a disaster for her. But good for her. I'm glad she's settled. I'm glad she'll have... I'm glad she has a bone to chew on moving forward. This will be good. Be good to get her back into the space. You know, I can't help but feel, and I know how some of you feel about this, but I cannot help but feel like AEW had a missed opportunity here bringing, Monet and Trinity in as a tag team, bringing them in both. Not as a tag team, but bringing in them both and getting like this, the positive public relations boost, the goodwill that would have been generated by that. When it's like, look, these women left together, I am hiring them together kind of thing. The perception wise, it would have been glorious. But look, clearly it was not meant to be. Mercedes is off doing her thing, and thriving off of it. And then Naomi, what are you going to do? Naomi is not the level of star that Mercedes Moné is. So there was, she could not walk into Bushi Road and say, give me whatever money she's having. This will be like, no, you're not the star. She's the star, which is understandable and fine. So that was some news, but you know what? That wasn't even the biggest news to happen at the Spring Slugfest thing. How you doing, Will Davis? Nice to see you, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. You're just in time for me to talk about the real big news from Spring Slugfest. Guess who was backstage? Guess who was still on tour? On the tour bus, hitting the towns, going from promotion to promotion, getting his name out there. CM Punk. How do we know he was backstage at Impact? He took pictures with Ricky Morton and Jordan Grace, and they tweeted about it. They tweeted the pictures. He was not escorted away, though. Security did not need to ask him to leave. He did not have to get Bully Ray's. He did not have to talk to Bully Ray to get Bully Ray's permission to talk to Scott D'Amore. I don't know. Oh, this fucking guy. At this point, I have to assume that Tony Khan knows about this and that these things are approved. Because, you know what? And as I'm saying about it, I'm about to redact myself. Because what were we talking about last week? Last week when this happened, when he showed up at Raw, what did I say? I said exactly that. This fucking guy shows up, does whatever the hell he wants to do, you know, and this is like he's power playing, right? He's just throwing his weight around, going, I can go wherever the fuck I want. I can talk to whoever I want. He is still under contract with AEW for all intents and purposes. From everything that we have gathered, this man is still employed by AEW. He wasn't even suspended necessarily. He was just sent home because he was injured. Again, something about a fragile body. Anyway. And he shows up, he goes to the competitions, and it gets leaked out. Again, I cannot emphasize enough. Why do you all think this was leaked? Why do you think this information was put out there? Why was the information of him specifically shaking hands with Triple H was a point of news? Why was specifically him talking to Miz Nannen a specific point of news? A man that CM Punk has called out on social media that he has beef with. What? Why do you think? Because CM Punk is going around telling people, showing, hey, you know what? I just want to make good. I'm here to talk to anyone and everyone. I'm a nice guy. It's people who aren't nice to me. I walk up and I shook Triple H's hand. And I looked him straight in the eye and said, do you think I could talk to Vince? Do you think I could make amends? Do you think we could go back here and talk and we could make amends? Triple H said, no, I got to talk to Vince first, you freak. You sued us. Hit the bricks. Security. Escort this man out. I wasn't doing anything, officer. I'm sorry. I just came to say hello to some of my friends. I'm CM Punk. You can call me Phil Brooks. Have you tried Mindy's Muffins? Do you see what I'm trying to say here? And now he's going to impact Ricky Morton, beloved veteran Richard Morton of a legendary tag team, a guy who has spent the better part of his later years in his career putting over new guys, not sitting behind a podcast microphone shitting on the business today like many of his contemporaries are doing. No, a guy who's going out there and he's putting the young guys over, so CM Punk, hey, it's Ricky Morton. Everyone likes Ricky Morton. Jordan Grace, she's a badass. She's, redefining, how women are presented in pro wrestling. Hey, Jordan. I don't get it. I don't know why people hate me. I'm so cool. Come on. Hopefully you see through this, right? And I know you do. I know you do. Because you're the A+ audience, man. I love you guys. I don't believe, and again, I'm retconning exactly what I just said. I don't think any of this is okayed by Tony. I think he's just throwing his weight around. He's power playing. He's showing, look, I can do whatever the hell I want, Tony. I'm not beholden to you. I can do whatever the hell I want. Because the fact that these things get leaked, folks, is crucial to this story. Crucial. He had his meeting with Chris Jericho. Did you hear about this? The meeting that was with FTR and whatever. Wade Keller reported it. He said at first it took place said it happened, and it was they were using Chris Jericho as an intermediary. He was CM Punk was to talk to Chris Jericho, not necessarily to smooth things over with Chris Jericho, but just to smooth things over overall. And then Chris Jericho would carry the news. He'd go over to the other side and try to smooth things over, right? Because CM Punk wants to talk to the elite. He wants to. It's the elite who don't want, right? God, if you can't see what he's doing here, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so Chris Jericho it wasn't like to necessarily squash beef with Jericho. Apparently Jericho was this was a meeting. They probably settled some issues, don't get me wrong, but I think from what we understand, the basis of it was to be an intermediary between CM Punk and other people, probably the elite, right? And then later, so, the meeting happened, and, at first it was said went well. Then I think a day later, Fightful reported that the meeting was, quote, was relatively uneventful, all things considered, and especially when taking into consideration the issues the two have had. So maybe not the outcome you're hoping for. Maybe this wasn't exactly what you were wishing. Maybe Jericho was like, hey, I don't appreciate being stooged out in an Instagram post. You geek. Look, we'll see how all of this happens. We'll see what all this happens. But, the more things keep going forward, the more we're going to be hearing about Chris Jericho in a position of authority, or at least of high influence in the company, right? Because there's been some scuttlebutt in regards to who is booking AEW these days. Who's got, maybe not as much who is booking, but who's in charge of creative. There's been a lot of talk about how much Chris Jericho has become a right-hand man to Tony Khan. There's been a lot of talk about, I've even heard, the certain pair of brothers from Cucamonga, Rancho Cucamonga, maybe having the creative side of things. Speculating, just relaying what I heard. I can't tell you for, definitely if this is the thing, but I think it's interesting to hear that, suddenly there's these little inklings of news of rumors, right? Let's not call it news. These little things are popping out as Dynamite has these weird patterns and these terrible storylines, and the shit with the pillars, and then we're saying, oh well, maybe not. Maybe Tony's not in control right now. Maybe Tony's delegating right now. Like, really? Is it who's going to be the scapegoat here? Because you don't have a Johnny Ace here. You don't have a Johnny Ace. You don't have a Bruce Pritchard here, Tony. Do you want to make one? Anyway, this CM Punk stuff, content gold. I'll tell you what, I'm fed up. And I don't remember, I think we were talking about this in was it on the Discord or was it on a pre-stream at some point? I don't quite remember. But the day CM Punk returns to AEW, I am starting a CM Punk incident day count right here on we'll have a visual of it. X number of days since CM Punked kind of thing. We're doing it. Because I keep telling you, it's not a question of if he's going to melt down. It's a question of when. All right, let's get into WrestleMania Backlash preview, which is happening this weekend. May 6th from San Juan, Puerto Rico, in the Coliseo de Puerto Rico. Again, one of these schemes, not unlike what WWE did in Cardiff, right? Get in touch with with a tourism bureau and pump as much money as they can out of them to bring their event there and sort of generate a little tourism. It's the same thing here because they're doing ad reads. Commentary's doing ad reads for San Juan. Anyway, this is happening this weekend. I have a poll running right now. If you still want to jump in here, taking your temperature, because you have to take everyone's temperature when it comes. Everyone takes temperatures when it comes to AEW pay-per-views, but I seldom see what's your WWE temperature on this. But what about? So I'm doing it for WWE. What's your temperature here? As it stands right now, whopping 45% of you are ice cold about this pay-per-view. I think it's a very mid show. I think it's very mid. I think mid is a good way to define it. There is one match I'm looking forward to, and the others can really just happen. Let's get into it. WWE Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair will be defending her title against Io Sky. Probably the last time. By the way, probably the last time she's going to be defending the Raw Women's Champion, right? Because she was drafted to SmackDown, right? Give me a moment here. Here comes the sidebar about the goddamn draft. And again, the nonsense that we have to expect with the women's titles. Because once again, in this draft this year, the SmackDown Women's Champion has been drafted to Raw, and the Raw Women's Champion was drafted to SmackDown. Now, we all remember what happened last time. They decided to just swap the belts. Remember it was Becky and Charlotte? You remember how well that went down when Becky and Charlotte were in the ring together and Becky and Charlotte had to swap belts with Sonya Deville right in the middle? You remember that? And Becky threw her belt at Charlotte. You remember that? That was, not only was that a legendary event in and about itself, but it was legendary because of how fucking stupid it is. This company that puts so much value on their undisputed Universal Championship, and now they're this World Heavyweight Championship, they couldn't give a toss about their women's titles, which they legitimately see as toys, because you can just swap them. It doesn't matter. This is what we were talking. When I say we, I was talking about this with Christian, but I talk about this at every draft when this nonsense shows up. Remove the brands from the titles. For fuck's sake, the men are fighting for titles representing the world, representing the universe, representing the United States, represented the intercontinents. The women are fighting for Raw and SmackDown belts. Now it's about time that we cut this shit out. It is more than enough time that we just pull the plug on this bullshit and have a women's universal champion and a world women's champion or a WWE champion, whichever way you want to swing it, so that we can stop. Because this is inevitable, right? This is what's going to happen. Is it going to happen on... No, the draft comes into effect after Backlash, right? That's the thing. So it's probably not happening on Friday. But you can see this happening, right? They're going to do a swap thing. They're just going to trade titles, which is fucking stupid. They're prizes. They're not fucking Pokemon cards. And I don't see either woman, Bianca Belair or Rhea, going, no, this is the title I won. You can't just substitute it. It doesn't make sense. It's stupid. Plus, it's a missed opportunity for some matches with impact for the women with stakes. You could have yourself just a little mini tournament. Could last just a couple of weeks. Throw in 4 women. Make it a nice little, neat little knockout tournament. And on either brand, vacate the fucking titles. Have the champions fight for them again. Have them win them again. who cares? It just gives us something to talk about over the next couple of weeks, puts more women on TV in interesting matches, in matches that have relevance and meaning. Better yet, have a round robin. I cannot emphasize enough how much I need a round robin tournament in my North American wrestling television. I believe North American fans would go nuts on the good side for a proper round robin tournament like they do so much in Japan. People would love it. Is it because we think that wrestling fans can't figure out? Christ, we're not that stupid. Can figure out a round robin tournament. Everyone fights each other once, or has the most points at the end wins the block. It's just as simple. There's a tie. Well, we have a tiebreaker. You can do tiebreakers any way you want. You can do them G1 style. You can do them all Japan style. Doesn't matter. Or you can do your own style. I think a good old-fashioned round robin tournament would do wonders. For the 4 women involved in it, they'd be on for the next couple of weeks. Of course, unless they just have them wrestle like 2 to 3 minute matches like they did with the fucking, Queen of the Ring tournament from 2 years ago or whatever already. Because that was a disaster. So maybe it's not a good idea, but I don't know. It's a better idea than just doing an old switcheroo. Spotless sunshine of a spotless title switcheroo. God, I can't stand this. So, who cares whether, Bianca is defending the Raw? Like, it deflates this match. You're like, it doesn't matter. Bianca's going to SmackDown. It doesn't even matter. Unless they do really the insane thing of belting up Io and Zelina, who are both on different brands right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Io's on Raw, Zelina's on SmackDown, right? They didn't get, the LWO got drafted to SmackDown, right? If I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I think. So you could. Io Shirai is SmackDown too. So okay, who cares? It doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of it matters. None of this matters. And if anything, we're telegraphing the end of the match. Io Shirai is not winning the Raw Women's Championship if she's on SmackDown. What are we doing? By the way, NXT is on right now, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, we're not watching Michael Hickenbottom's weekly 2 hours of pro wrestling. What are they doing with Alba Fire and the witchy sisters, the witchy women versus Caden Carter and Casey Patient Zero? They were supposed to do a match for the NXT tag titles, right, tonight, but then both teams got called up. So none of this matters. What am I talking about? Back to the pay-per-view. The PLE from Puerto Rico. Scripps lost his mask. Is this as in he will now be Reggie again, or he lost his mask, he misplaced it, or he lost his mask, a wily heel hid it from him? Wait, someone has to update me on the state of Scripps' mask. We need some live updates as we go. He's Reggie again. Oh, goody. Good. Honestly, that Scripps thing was just nonsense. Terrible name. I don't know who thought this was a good. I don't know. Back to the PLE from Puerto Rico. Look, Bianca retains in what has the potential to be a very good wrestling match between Bianca Belair, who I can't put over enough, and Io Shirai, who I cannot put over enough. Io Shirai, for a long time, was considered one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Male, female, it didn't matter. But the WWE style is holding back everything that made her special. I can understand why WWE fans look at Io Shirai perform in WWE rings and go, why did people think she was that big a deal? She's fine, but, well, because they don't want her to. They don't want it to be that big time. So she's not winning. That's one thing. And I'm like, this is one of the matches that I'm expecting to be on the up and up. One of the better matches of the night. In a San Juan street fight, Damian Priest will take on multi-platinum Grammy recording winner superstar Bad Bunny, who is absolutely going over in his hometown, right? Or will WWE do the bold thing and have Damian Priest go over? Well, hometown, home country, right? Home state. What is Puerto Rico? I'm kidding. Where is Damian Priest from? He's from New York. What are we talking about? Where is Bad Bunny from? He is legitimately from Puerto Rico. Is Damian Priest Puerto Rican descent? I think that's it, right? But he's not from Puerto Rico. He was born in New York. I think Bad Bunny gets the win here. I'll tell you, this is what I'm interested in seeing. Here, let me pull again. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to say absolute garbage, but I am looking forward to seeing Bad Bunny in a singles match. Because if I'm not mistaken, his two previous matches, WWE appearances, have been in multi-man matches, right? Yeah, he had the tag team match with Damian Priest. And he had he was in the Royal Rumble. So we have never seen the Bad Bunny in a singles match. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how he's going to handle being all by himself, you know? I think the bar is high with, a guy like Logan Paul, who's still a dipshit, don't get me wrong. The bar is high, but, I'm still interested to see how it's going to go. Of course, there's going to be tons of smoke and mirrors here because it's a street fight, so there's going to be plunder. That asshat Dominic is going to be around. So there's going to be more than probably Finn Balor. Like, who cares? There's going to be all sorts of stuff to, cover, to work at Bad Bunny's level, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think we're going to have a mind-blowing singles performance out of him that maybe Logan Paul gave us, I hit the bricks. The best heel in the business, Dom Mysterio. I tell you, hit the bricks. But I think you would assume WWE would want to put their own stars over here, but I don't think this is what we're getting here. Seth Rollins versus Omos. Seth Rollins will continue putting other people over. Seems to be he made a star out of Dominic. He made a star out of Cody Rhodes, and now he will make a star out of Omos. Legitimately, though, Omos has to win this, right? Omos has to win this. Omos has lost every big match. He squashes fools right and left, don't get me wrong. But he has lost every big match, every marquee match he has ever been in. He can't do it. He can't pull off the big one. And with Vince back and him being, promoted as this attraction, this monster heel, they have to start treating him like a monster heel who can also destroy the fan favorites like, Seth Rollins. Take away the capacity for the audience to sing along with Seth, and you've got yourself an instant heel. I still don't know what Omos has to offer that is so special. He is very tall. Maybe Rollins will introduce us to something in Omos that we have not seen before. I believe Omos goes over here, much to the dismay of everyone, and Seth Rollins continues putting people over. He is the most Cody Rhodes person on the WWE roster, being a big-time star who just puts other people over. That's his thing. Rhea Ripley will defend the WWE SmackDown Women's title against Zelina Vega. I don't know who could potentially even remotely care about this. I mean, I know why they're doing it. Because, Zelina's Hispanic background, Puerto Rico, so on and so forth. I know why this match is happening. I understand it. Again, just because I understand it doesn't mean I like it. I got nothing here. This will probably stink. And this is Rhea's first defense since winning the title in one of the absolute best women's matches in the history of WWE. Top 2. We could have arguments about Sasha Bailey and Brooklyn, and we can have discussions with Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. It'd make for some compelling arguments. It'd be fun. And her first defense off of that legitimate star-making performance is against Zelina Vega. Okie dokie. United States title will be defended in a triple threat. Oh, fun. I love those. Austin Theory versus maybe he is a little bossy. Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed. Theory retains. Lashley takes the pin. I could not be any less interested in this. Boy, oh boy, if there is one thing WWE is really good at, consistent, I should say, it is dropping the ball on Bobby Lashley. It's just when you thought they had cracked the code with Bobby Lashley, with his amazing run as United States champion that led naturally into his heavyweight title champion, the WWE championship run, right? As much as you felt like that, all of that made sense and was great and had the Hurt Business, just when you thought they cracked the code, they decided, no, we're not doing this anymore. And now he's with Austin Theory and Bronson Reed. Okay. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Matt Riddle taking on the Bloodline, the Usos, and Solo Sikoa. Apparently, look, Matt Riddle made his comeback and was shoehorned into the Bloodline angle by someone in creative, let's not name names, by someone in creative who was like, I want this guy. I want you to push him. He's my guy. Put him in the Bloodline. It's the hottest angle in the company. Yeah, but does it make sense? I don't care. Put him in the angle because it's the hottest in the company. All right, boss. Oh. Oop. If you don't feel like he's been shoehorned in, like this has been it's the jump the shark situation here. This is the moment you can pinpoint where it's not even when Cody Rhodes lost the title, if you ask me. It's when they decided to make Matt Riddle an important factor of the Bloodline story. Moving forward with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who still had unfinished business, but we didn't need this extra layer. It's all dumb. And look, as I mentioned it previously, about the bloodline and how, the Usos all have to prove themselves, and Jimmy's on the outs, he's the voice of dissent. We're back to square one. So my prediction, the bloodline win here because of nonsense, and this is going to continue this feud that at this point no one wants anymore. Why? Because it's exhausted. Because you had the peak, you had the opportunity to pull the trigger on it twice, 3 arguably, but you didn't. So it's stale as stale bread. And then main event is the one I'm most curious for. I'm not gonna lie, I'm most looking forward to it. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. First of all, will Brock work more than 10 minutes? Over under 10 minutes for Brock, folks. I'm legitimately curious to see what he's going to do with Cody. Cody has to win, right? Or are we swallowing the narrative being spewed by a lot of WWE punditry that Cody has to pay his dues, right? Imagine Cody Rhodes has to pay his dues. This was legitimately one of the numerous nonsensical explanations I heard from people analyzing the outcome of WrestleMania 39. It was like, well, of course Cody had to lose. He had to pay his dues. As opposed to, the guy's on fire, keep him ablaze. Give him a push. No, we got to we got to cool him off a bit. We don't like it when our people get too hot. Again, another constant for WWE. How many times have I said that in the past? In regards to anyone who gets themselves over too much. Got to cool them down, getting too hot. I'm still looking forward to see what's going to happen here. And it's going to be very telling. Because if you ask me, Cody wins here because he has to reestablish himself as a top guy after losing the big match, so that when he wins the tournament for the World Heavyweight title, it all feels normal and people are like, good job, Cody, here's your consolation prize, and they'll all be happy. What I would like to see happen is Roman Reigns showing up and helping Brock beat Cody down. Then the both of them, Roman kills the bloodline, and Brock and Roman go on a 2-man power trip with Brock winning the new fucking title on the Raw side. Because he's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants, right? And then you have a 2-man power trip, and the chaos around that would be fantastic. Oh, yeah. And if I can't get, because that's what's great about pro wrestling, it's the chaos. Tell me that wouldn't rule. Anything at this point would be better than the continuation of the bloodline. Anyway, mid-looking card, lots of things I'm not interested in. I don't think I am gearing myself up to bury the show next week. Like, I'm not ready to bury it, unlike it's happened a few times with some NXT shows where I forewarned you. where I would take the time to warn you, hey, next week I'm burying this show. I can feel it. I'm not feeling that I'm going to bury it. I think I might come out of this show being very ambivalent. I think there's 2 matches on this card which I'm going to enjoy a great deal. And the rest I'm just... the worst thing I can do is create high expectations for a World Wrestling Entertainment premium live event, because that way we just end up breaking our heart. All right. Hey, I watched some New Japan. I want to get into some previews. We're okay on time, aren't we? Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. I watched a bit of New Japan Pro Wrestling. The Road to Wrestling Dontaku shows have been coming down the pipe pretty much every day. As usual, the Road 2 shows, as you know, you don't have to watch them all, but there are occasional tidbits, and there are nights where you're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff happening on this night of the tour that requires some attention. And one of those nights was night 6, specifically the one that happened on April 27 from the Sun Plaza in Hiroshima, Japan. I'm not going to run through the entire undercard. There were three top tier matches that I want to go over here that had some significance to them. Let's go right ahead, and maybe if you ever want to watch them, well, you can take my recommendations to heart here. First of all, we had Tetsuya Naito defeating Dookie, which had been built for a few weeks. Not a bad match. But not a bad match. I thought, look, Dookie worked hard. He had his working boots on, and the match started off so fierce, so great, because Naito came out in his big match attire. So the cape and the shirt and the whole 9 yards, and Dookie wasn't ready for him to just take 3 minutes to remove all the gear. As he entered the ring, Dookie went right after him and all the gear. So, I was like, oh, okay. So Dookie's feeling it. Let's fucking go. Let's get this going. But it was all right. Clash of styles maybe, but then again, a guy like Naito who spent so much time in Japan, Dookie as well. In Mexico. Of course, he spends a lot of time in Japan. It kind of felt like maybe it should have meshed a little better than this, but it was all right, and it was a fine match, don't get me wrong, but maybe a little under what I was expecting as far as the effort from Dookie was going to be. Because I really thought Dookie was going to really come all out, and it's like, look, I'm in a match, I'm in a singles match, probably the biggest singles match I've ever had in New Japan. With one of the absolute top stars of the company. Let's turn it up. Let's go. But it was all right. And I actually think I enjoyed it more than a lot of people did. I really did like it. I think it fell a little short of expectations, but it was okay. I can't say any more, can't say any less. Wasn't anything that blew my mind necessarily. I thought it was a well-worked pro wrestling match, but I felt like it could have connected more, if that makes sense. It was fine. It was all right. I didn't consider it a waste of time. Naito wins. I have a theory regarding Naito. I always do. Because I like Tetsuya Naito. Sue me. I really do. I'm an LIJ guy. It's hard for me to be completely analytical, but we'll talk about that in a second in regards to Naito. But I think it makes sense for him to have won here. If Dookie had won, this would have been a major upset. It would have been a really big deal. Naito winning is fine. Dookie is still very much an undercard guy. Clearly, there's no plans to push him with this loss here. And, Naito, I think it's important that Naito has a a clear singles win where he still establishes himself as one of the top guys, where it's like, oh, no, these guys aren't ready for me yet. And I think there's a reason for that. Catch 22, the tag team of Francesco Akira and TJP lost their IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles to Kevin Knight and Kushida, also known as the Intergalactic Jet Setters. In a fun match. I thought this was very good, actually. I thought this was a very good match. I got to tell you, here's a couple of things. Here are a few things. TJP gets busted up hard way in this match. Again, like, I don't know what's going on with all the accidental blood in New Japan recently. I'd be lying if it didn't add to the match, you know? I'd be lying if when that happens, if it doesn't fire me up, doesn't get me into it. Like, oh shit. And the guys seem to play off of it as well, you know? It's good stuff. First of all, I continue to believe that Catch 22 is one of the top 3 teams in the world of professional wrestling today. They are just phenomenal. And I know I say it every goddamn time, but hopefully this will be the last time I say it, but this is a team that was thrown together. 2 singles guys. And Gedo was like, yeah, you guys are going to tag for a bit because we need bodies on the junior tag circuit. And Akira and TJP said, okay, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And these guys wrestle as a team so cohesively and naturally. It's dumbfounding. It's astonishing. The shit that these guys pull off, that they just do in the ring. It's remarkable. The tag team combination, the smoothness that they have. They look like a team who's been tagging for 10 years. But they've barely been together for 2. Outstanding. Just outstanding work from both guys. Kushida, motivated. He's into it. We were worried about Kushida upon his return to New Japan. We're like, is there space for Kushida in 2023 New Japan? Does he have a spot? People were saying, he should have a heel turn. Freshen him up. I got to tell you one thing. I don't know if we're working with Kevin Knight, working with a young graduate like this, a young graduate from the LA dojo, right? I don't know if that's giving Kushida like a little boost to be paired up with a young guy like that, but he's looking fantastic. Again, the match that he had with MacLeod at Rebellion, I thought was great. And now he's in this tag team match for the titles, and he's fantastic. Everything is clicking. Is he coming back to be, the ace of the division? No. That time has passed. We have an ace of the division. We have in Hiromu Takahashi. That's fine. Everything here connected. Everything was fantastic. Kushida motivated is great. And Kevin Knight, this is a Kevin Knight appreciation podcast moving forward is what the Mr. Warren Hayes show is. This guy's great. You can see that he still has the nerves. You can tell that some of the stuff that he does isn't quite as crisp or as confident because he's on these big stages and a lot of pressure, but he's living up to it. And he is a tremendous athlete. He's got a lot of upside. There's a lot of good stuff to come for Kevin Knight in the business of pro wrestling. We'll see how far this tag team with Kushida goes, but it's very good for him. I think it's fantastic. I think this has been the intergalactic jet setters have been a standout tag team. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed that Catch 22 lost the titles, which means that we won't have as much focus on them as a team moving forward, which is okay because both of these guys are going to be in the. Well, I know TJP is I think Akira as well, right? Yeah, Akira's in it as well. They're going to be in the Best of Super Juniors, but so I'm just saying this as a wrestling fan, kind of disappointed that we won't be honing in on Catch 22 as much in the junior tag division, because the junior tag division is kind of dire. It always has been, and it had been for a while, and it hadn't been as interesting in a long time since Akira and TJP got the titles. So will Kevin Knight and Kushida be able to maintain that level of interest, that level of work? Let's talk again. Let's put a pin in that and revisit it. And then the main event was Hiromu Takahashi successfully retaining his IWGP Junior Heavyweight title against Yoshinobu Kanemaru in a great match. A fantastic match where Kanemaru wrestled the most Yoshinobu Kanemaru match you could imagine. And I say this with aplomb, with good intentions. Work the leg, work the knee, locking in figure fours over and over again, building this match to an outstanding climax. Like, this was a prototypical slow burn match, but I promise you didn't see it coming. I promise you, maybe even at first you're like, man, this is kind of boring. But Kanemaru, and all the little things he does, all the little things that he was tasked to do, in just working the leg a little bit here, a little bit there. As the match progressed, Kanemaru just was destroying Hiromu's knee, which was already a problem, was already a story moving forward. And of course, as we've talked about here multiple times in regards to Hiromu, he sold the knee injury like he was being eviscerated. It was fantastic. Just a fantastic job. And that final figure four, where Hiromu is he's begging for his life, is just some of the most compelling wrestling I've seen this year. But Hiromu gets the win. He's able to get out of the lock. Hits the dynamite plunger, a lariat, and the time bomb too. I'll tell you one thing. I don't usually, I think about, who's having a great year so far and so on and so forth. Especially like we're coming into the summer. That's usually where everyone starts thinking about their halfway lists, right? If you watch New Japan and whatnot, if you watch multiple things, Hiromu Takahashi has to be on your short list for Wrestler of the Year so far. This guy's been having a stellar 2023. And for all the worries that I had regarding Hiromu in 2022 as to whether he was washed, maybe, were the injuries finally catching up with him? Was he really transforming his style to the point where he would always take a beating and then come back for the big comeback? There was a certain pattern to Hiromu matches for a straight in 2022. 2023 has been the complete opposite. Like the complete opposite. He has been having just absolutely fantastic matches up and down this year so far. The match that including the match, and especially the match he had with Amakusa at the Kajimuto final bye-bye show. That was outstanding. His match with Leo Rush a couple of weeks ago, that was just absolutely phenomenal stuff. He's been on Robbie Eagles. He's been on such an upswing. And again, it's important to, mention this. This is not the, the Hiromu we had like 5, 6, 7 years ago. He's no longer there, right? He broke his neck. That forced him to change his style. It's no longer the guy who, as is written on oftentimes on his jacket, it's not the guy who has the suicidal tendencies anymore. He's just running out there, but adapting his style, yet still making it feel very eccentric, high speed Hiromu, right? We still have that beat from him. We're never going to get that old Hiromu again, but the Hiromu we have right now, it's working. He's doing fantastic work. So a great main event that I highly invite you to go check out because it was very good. Then we had another match I want to talk about. Two other matches I want to talk about in regards to New Japan review are two matches from Wrestling Satsuma no Kuni, which happened on April 29 at the Kagoshima Arena in Kagoshima. We had the Aussie Open successfully retaining, their IWGP Tag Team titles on their first defense against TMDK, the Australian boys having a clinic. I thought this match ruled. You know what I liked about this match was creative. I saw a bunch of stuff here. I saw things that just, little things. And sometimes that's all it takes for me to get excited. Little things. Where I'm like, I don't see this often. Or I've never seen this before. And I'm not saying these outstanding moves. Just ways that moves are countered. Or reversed. I'm like, holy shit. This match ruled. And it was physical. I know a lot of people talk about Kyle Fletcher. With reason. Kyle Fletcher's going to be he's going to be a big star. He's got all the tools. But man, I'll be damned if I'm not a Mark Davis guy. Mark Davis, ride or die. Till the very end. That guy is something special. Brutal. He has just enough throwback, but without being a nostalgia act. Because he does enough modern, contemporary things to make him feel of the times, but without discarding the legacy of big, physical, meaty men that course through New Japan or anywhere else. I mean, the Stan Hansen comparisons are there. And I get them. But he's a different breed of cat, as they'd say, from Stan Hansen. I was really glad that TMDK got... this match had time as well. It went like 25 minutes. I'm so glad that they got some time here to stretch their legs. I can't imagine Shane Haste running around with the slapjack mask and then being told, hey, you're going to be the crocodile hunter, Croiky mate. I'm out here catching alligators, Croiky. I'm looking for Reggie, mate. Got to get the Reggie Croiky, lock him up in a cage. And it was physical. That's the thing. Like I said, this is super physical. All guys just delivering kicks and lariats and just some fantastic stuff. And then when they'd hit the high spots would be fantastic. Just great stuff. The Aussie Open guys land their pile drivers, but just to make sure that the TMDK guys stay down, they do the pile drivers, and the free guy kicks the TMDK guy in the head. Just good stuff. Coriolis wins. I thought it ruled. You know what else ruled? The New Japan King of Pro Wrestling Takagi-style triad match. Champion Shingo Takagi was defeated by Taichi, his King of Pro Wrestling rival, to become the new King of Pro Wrestling. And this Takagi-style triad match went as follows. You had to win, you had to defeat your opponent 3 different ways out of 5. You could beat them either by pinfall, submission, knockout, towel input, or count out. The towel input thing made me laugh because sometimes I'll use my phone and I'll use the translation option, on the camera to see what's in Japanese. So they have the little, I was listening to Japanese commentary, and they have the little tracker at the bottom, the standings with all the different types. So I was looking through the translator, and one of them translated, essentially it was like technical knockout or referee stoppage, right? As opposed to a knockout, but it was written towel input. And I thought that was funny, as in throwing in the towel. They had given a couple of examples, right? Like referee stoppage, throwing in the towel, that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you one thing, if there's one guy that has made gold out of this chicken shit that was the King of Pro Wrestling stuff, it was Shingo Takagi was going to do it, and he did it. Because everything he's done while being the King of Pro Wrestling has been compelling, has been good. He took essentially a joke title that was given to Yano for Yano to do wacky matches, and lock Minoru Suzuki up in a dog cage. Took that and was like, no, you know what? If we're going to do stipulations, because that's the thing with the King of Pro Wrestling, it has to have stipulations. We're not going to do, lock your opponent in a cage match or that kind of bullshit. He's like, like the 30 count match, which was against Taichi, is a match I still fondly remember. Wasn't one of my matches of the year, but it was a match that I was like, dude, this is fun. This rules. Then he does the similar style match to this one with Aaron Henare a couple of weeks ago. That was bananas good. This was great as well. And again, I'm sitting here, 2023, showering praise once again on perennial mid-carder Taichi, who no one really expected anything out of, because this guy in 2018, 2019, my dates might be a little off, but he was completely unmotivated, completely disinterested. He had one of the worst wrestling matches I've ever seen in New Japan against Hiroki Goto for the Never title at some point. Again, can't remember what the date was. I was like, what is this shit? Taichi was on my shit list. Now, I look forward to his matches. Now, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, carrying the legacy of Shingo Takagi as KOPW champion moving forward. Because Shingo losing this title takes a lot of my interest away from it. A lot. Because Shingo was fantastic. This match ruled. It was brutal and violent. The guys were exhausting each other. Just like completely playing each other out. They covered in sweat. A 45-minute match. And don't let that deter you. I promise. Don't let that deter you. Because it builds to a wonderful crescendo of violence. And with teases all throughout, at some point Kanemaru's like, maybe I should throw in the towel for Taichi. And then at another point, Hiromu was like, maybe I should throw in the title. Then not the title, the towel. Do some towel input for our boy Shingo. But no. They're fighting each other on the floor. They're trying to use all sorts of different devices to defeat each other. They're landing their finishers on top of each other, And again, this ends with a submission. It ends with Taichi landing in a choke on Shingo. And Shingo is struggling in this, and the guys are sweaty. I think at some point Shingo just like slips out because they're just slippery. But Taichi locks it in, and Shingo eventually passes out, despite the fact that Hiromu wanted to toss the towel, throw the towel in. And you know what was fun here? You had all the entourages come out. You had the LIJ boys come out with Shingo, and you had the Just Five guys come out with Taichi. So you had the entourage, you had everyone in the corners and trying to motivate. Like, there was a big match feel to this. It felt important. It felt significant. It wasn't just a throwaway gimmick. It was like, no, these guys are going to they're about to kick each other's asses. They kicked each other's asses for 45 minutes straight. This was brutal. It was violent. I loved it. Short of a match of the year, but I'll be damned if this wasn't great. I highly recommend this match. Go have yourselves a good time. You've got an hour before going off to do something. Grab yourself a snack, glass of water, stay hydrated, and watch this match. Outstanding stuff. Thank God New Japan is back. Feeling good, feeling like it should. Puro in general, actually. Because holy shit, things are dismal on the North American side. I'll tell you what, sometimes. But now we're going to talk about Wrestling Dontaku. Hey, Obscurity Knox. How you doing? I knew I could count on you for the Australian references. That takes me back. New Japan Pro Wrestling, I should say, Wrestling Dontaku 2023. That is happening later today, tonight, tomorrow, whenever. Like, by the time you're listening to this podcast, my preview of Wrestling Dontaku will be a moot point because the show will have, unless you're watching live, the show will have happened. So probably everything here is going to be a moot point, but I want to run down the card nonetheless. Give some quick thoughts because again, maybe I won't go as deep into a preview as I might do for a New Japan show. Because again, I realize that I'm so short notice on this. Well, short notice. The show's tomorrow. What are they doing? Shows on Wednesdays. The Oiwa hat trick challenge match is going to happen. This is a Young Lions thing. Oiwa will attempt to run the gauntlet of Yuto Nakashima, Bolton Oleg, and Oscar Lube. If he can win 1, 2, or all 3 of the 5-minute matches, he could come away with some delicious prizes of yakiniku barbecue, with the grand prize of 200,000 yen's worth of meat and a New Japan World TV title shot if he scores all 3 victories. That's a fun little concept. This, we've been told, however, will not be part of the New Japan broadcast, which sucks because I want to see people fight for food. I want more matches where people win food. I want to win barbecue at the end of my match. I want barbecue matches. Give me more yakiniku barbecue matches. Have them fight for dumplings. A year's supply of dumplings. I think that I'd become a pro wrestler if more prizes included food. I'm not talking about the famous handshake and a hot dog thing. No. I'm talking about copious amounts of food as a winner's purse. Anyway, that's not going to be broadcast, so that kind of things. Anyway, let's run through the card here. Oscar Leube. I'm sorry, AK Germany 96. I know he's German. Leube. You're right. L-U. My German is so far removed from me now. I apologize. We're going to have Hiroki Goto, Toru Yano, and Yoshihashi taking on the House of Torture. Couldn't care less. Here's one thing that really fucking jarred my fucking preserves. Forgot to mention this on the Satsuma no Kuni match show. The Aussie Open TMDK match ended with Bishamon coming out sort of to challenge for the titles, but then the fuckers of the House of Torture ran into, using their wrenches and whatnot to screw everything up. And you know who they came out to challenge Aussie Open, and you know who we're holding the titles as in we're going to be the tag team to take you on? Evil, of course, and fucking Yujiro. I do not want Yujiro on my television anymore. However, this is maybe a point positive here. If Evil and Yujiro start tagging a little more, maybe, just maybe, fingers crossed, praying to the heavens, maybe Yujiro won't be in the G1 this year. I don't ask for much. I'm a simple man. I get entertained by the simplest things. Sometimes I like a little more Wes Anderson than I do, my Mick G. Does he still do movies? But otherwise, I'm a simple man with simple pleasures. Hit the bricks, Yujiro. Keep him out of the G1. Then we got a 6-man tag match. Great O'Khan, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis taking on the TMDK group of Kosei Fujita, Mikey Nichols, and Shane Haste. All right. Kevin Knight and Kushida will be teaming up with Shota Umino versus Aaron Hanare and Catch 22 or Catch 22. The LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito versus the Just Five Guys crew of Doki, Taichi, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. That will be one to keep your eyes on, just in regards to what story they might be building to here. If the LIJ guys win here, which I think they will, It will be very interesting moving forward. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. The strong open weight title will be on the line. Kenta will defend against Hikuleo in a match that I could not care less about. This has the potential to really be a bad match. Unfortunately. Hopefully not. Zack Sabre Jr. will defend the World Television title against Jeff Cobb. That should be a lot of fun. I am super into Zack Sabre Jr. sprint wrestler, getting all of his wins under 15 minutes. Jeff Cobb can hold up cardio-wise. I'm excited for this. Strong Style, i.e. Ren Narita, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki will be putting up their never open-weight 6-man titles against the Chaos team of Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii, accompanied by the third man, Hiroshi Tanahashi. It should be a lot of fun. I'm at two places with this situation right here. I've got two things on the brain. First of all, it would kind of bum me out if Strong Style dropped the titles, because I feel like they haven't been featured as much as they could / should. I feel like that trio has a lot of potential, and they'll still be a team, I guess, moving forward, or a faction, whatever you want to call it. But I feel there might have been a little more juice to get out of this, to squeeze out of this, other than your typical House of Torture bullshit. However, on the flip side, if Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii win, well, I think this is an interesting way to keep Okada and Tanahashi outside of the top layer of New Japan, keeping them busy, giving them titles to defend, whatnot, but, not have them outside of the main title picture, right up until we're ready to reactivate Okada again, for instance, or Tanahashi, right? I think this is a good thing for them to do while we're working with other individuals in the main event, where we have a new world champion in Sanada who doesn't have to go back and face Okada just yet, or Tanahashi just yet. Like, it would make sense. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of great elements in this match. Despi, Ishii, Okada. I mean, everyone. Suzuki, Narita, Tanahashi. Everyone's great in here. What are we talking about? Tanahashi, more and more, slowly but surely, but it's becoming ever more clear that he is very much on his way to being officially one of the New Japan dads. We're getting there. Then we have the never open weight title. Tama Tonga will defend against Dave Finlay. If I'm a betting man, but I'm not. But if I'm a betting man, I would put money on Dave Finlay winning here. It works with everything that he's been doing with the Bullet Club, who is celebrating their 10th year of their formation today, as I'm recording this, if I'm not mistaken. 10 years of Bullet Club. And I think Bullet Club is going to make a splash at Dominion. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Not time to talk about Dominion yet. Main event is Sanada defending the IWGP World Heavyweight title against Hiromu Takahashi. I mean, there's no way Hiromu's winning. I think this is pretty clear. But it is still going to be a very interesting test for Sanada to see, okay, all right, brother, show us what you got, right? I think this is fair. Because, look, here's the thing. I really feel like Sanada has a lot to prove. I think this is, outside of whatever feelings I have in regards to his work, his persona, what he does. Because for me, Sanada's he's not a shoo-in for, oh, this is my new favorite wrestler. Like, far from it. He's with his old stablemate and Hiromu, his old LIJ pal. This has the potential to be very good. I think Sanada has to deliver strong. I think he has to deliver a very, very strong match here because his previous outings have been fine. He's done some multi-man matches at the Collision shows in the US, and he did not feel like a champion. You know, he looks the part, but he didn't feel like it. So Hiromu is clearly taking the L here, but Sanada has to have a really strong Sanada has to have a really strong showing. I think he has to absolutely be a top guy to move forward here. He has to come across and he has to deliver these matches because the one thing that is going to get Sanada over is the work rate. That's what he has to do. Hiromu will be fine regardless of what's going on here. But he's clearly a stepping stone. Now this is where we things start to get interesting. This is where we have to start asking ourselves questions because I think that in the minds of a few people, including myself, I believe that Sanada's Dominion dance partner is going to be Tetsuya Naito. Continuing with the LIJ connection, you know, defeating Hiromu here. As if he's trying to rid himself of, you know, his LIJ buds, but we get the Dominion, and the way I'd see this is, you know, my grand brushstroke. If I were the booker, have Sanada win at Dontaku. Naito comes out, challenges him for a Dominion. Naito wins at Dominion and is the champion throughout the G1. Right into Wrestle Kingdom. What about Will Ospreay? Yes, you don't have to put Will Ospreay in a main event of. You don't have to put Will Ospreay in any main event championship match. You can do whatever you want with Will Ospreay. It'll be fine. That's what I do. Now, that's what I had planned. Then the little wrinkle happened where Shingo Takagi dropped this title. I think the timing is significant. I think a King of Pro Wrestling less Shingo is a very interesting little wrinkle in this Sanada quest to be a champion, to be a defending champion. Because you can really do two things with Shingo. One is the best, the other is the worst case scenario. The best, of course, is have him win, have him come out and challenge Sanada for the title at Dominion, and have Shingo win and carry the belt into Wrestle Kingdom. Is Shingo a top level, top ceiling guy for New Japan? Is he perceived on the same level as a Kazuchika Okada, as a Tetsuya Naito, as a Hiroshi Tanahashi? I don't know. My gut feeling would say not really. Like, you wouldn't have to convince me. But does he have that type of drawing power? Does he have that level of star power that makes him absolutely Tokyo Dome main event material with your eyes closed? You know, not unlike a Kazuchika Okada. I'm not sure. And so that's what keeps me from going all in and saying Shingo's the next challenger for Sanada and he beats him. Because we could do Shingo fighting Sanada at Dominion but losing. And that would be a big win for Sanada, and Shingo could 100% get the match out of Sanada, right? He absolutely could get it. But then that would mean that Sanada would carry the belt throughout the G1 and likely right into Wrestle Kingdom. New Japan seldom has the champion. Not saying it never happens, but they seldom have the champion lose the title on the way to Wrestle Kingdom. And I don't think Sanada, we just had the conversation about Shingo, but I can say with assurance, Sanada is not Tokyo Dome main event material. Not yet. But at this stage here, he absolutely is not. So, so the question is, you know, if Shingo does win the title and carries it into Wrestle Kingdom, then we can expect his opponent to be someone very big time, a la Kazuchika Okada, a la Tetsuya Naito. I think that's a fair assessment. But I can't help but shake the feeling that Naito is going to challenge Sanada for the belt at Dominion and is going to win it. He's going to take it off Sanada. And we're going into G1 season. Sanada will have a good performance, might even make it to the finals, but he'll get outshined, outclassed by someone else. Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay. I think that's a path. I think it's a path that makes sense. Because I know people love Kazuchika Okada. I love Okada. Everyone does. Do we want another Wrestle Kingdom headlined by Kazuchika Okada? Do we want that once again this year? They did it last year. 50th anniversary, whatnot. Was important. Significant event. It was a good idea for them to do it. Again this year? I don't know. But look, we'll talk about Dominion when the time comes around. And again, like I said, maybe everything I just said here is going to be a moot point when, you know, fucking Robbie Eagles comes out to challenge Sanada for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And I'll be like, okay. Or Bad Luck Fale. Or Togi Makabe. Look, I don't know. That was my preview of Wrestling Dontaku, which probably has already happened. I wanted to talk about the Best of Super Juniors field. It was announced last week, but the tournament doesn't start until May 16, right? So we got time. Because there's too much good stuff. I want to take some proper time to talk about it, and we're getting a little long in the tooth here. So I think we're just gonna straight up end this, wrap it up with the weekly wrestling inspection. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for listening to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I appreciate it a great deal. Look, if you were here live, I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much. Lots of people hung to the very end. Lots of people hung on to the very end to allow AK Germany, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, tell us that the NXT Women's Tag Champs are heading to SmackDown and Indy is vacating her title and Dexter carries her into the sunset. What a touching end to another era of NXT. So there's your breaking news to wrap things up for those of you who are watching live. We record live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you ever want to make it, it's a nice time. We'd love to have you. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video, subscribe if you feel like I worked hard enough to get your subscription, and also consider becoming a member of the channel. Join up the channel and you can get access to members only streams. They're a good time. They're a lot of fun. You can also make sure to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you're into that kind of thing, because that also helps grow the podcast a great deal. But in the meantime, holy smokes, hope everyone has a great rest of your week, Enjoy all the wrestling that's coming up. Enjoy WrestleMania Backlash. We'll see you next time.